Hey citizens. Thanks for tuning in to Nindie Nation. This is Skelly from Hades, and we can't wait for Hades to be just the thing to keep your Joy-Con synced, if you know what I mean.
How cool is that? That's right, you just heard Darren Korb, audio director of Supergiant Games, the creators of the incredible Hades that just surprise dropped this week. If you've played the game, you're already in love with the character Skelly, and I am so gracious for him to lend his time and talents to providing an intro for this week's show. Thank you, Darren. And thank you for tuning in to Nindie Nation episode 83, citizens. I'm Jeff, and if you're new here, welcome to your weekly dose of everything independently developed for the Nintendo Switch. This week, we're taking a look at all of the indie games releasing on the eShop from September 18th through the 25th, and after that, we'll check out the current deals and pick our favorites to help you find just the thing to keep your Joy-Cons synced. Nindie Nation posts to podcast feeds and YouTube each and every Tuesday, and we're brought to you by our friends at the Nintendo Village. Over on the YouTube channel, we've got Let's Plays and every episode of Nindies at Night, which this past week featured games like Super Punch Patrol and Ding Dong XL from solo devs Bertil Horberg and Adam Nickerson. So go check those out, and be sure to join us this Thursday at 10 p.m. Eastern right on the Nindie Nation YouTube channel. This was an incredible week for Nindies. 2 Game of the Year contenders dropped during the Nintendo Partner Direct, and a bunch of Nindies were announced or dated during Nintendo Life's indie presentation. So there's a lot to discuss during this week's Neglected Nindies section. And without further ado, here are the 13 indie games that hit the eShop since episode 82. There's really no better place to start than with the title I'm fairly positive will be remembered as the best Nindie of 2020. You've heard me gush about it multiple times, including the Nindies We Love video from February, and this week, out of nowhere, Supergiant's newest game, Hades, hit the eShop with a 20% discount for $19.99. Now, there are some fantastic titles in the running for Nindie of the Year, but Hades is the one that I think is a fit for every type of gamer. As Zagreus, the son of Hades, your goal is to escape from the underworld. Along the way, you'll meet dozens of characters from Greek mythology who will supply you with boons as you battle your way to the surface. When you fail, which you will a lot, you start at the beginning, but with currencies at your disposal to unlock all kinds of new weaponry, abilities, and stat adjustments. As a roguelike, and similar to Children of Morta, Hades expertly weaves the premise of trying, failing, and trying again into the overall narrative. As we've come to expect from Supergiant, the creators of Bastion and Transistor, the presentation is what sets Hades apart from the crowd, with a compelling story, sarcastic and witty commentary throughout, voice acting that's at the top of its game, and a soundtrack, oh, the soundtrack, are all of a quality and level of polish that we rarely see. I want to thank the composer and voice actor of Zagreus, Darren Korb, for graciously lending his voice to Nindie Nation for this episode's intro. Seriously, how cool is that? Hades is an absolute gem of a game, and with the overall presentation and options that make this game accessible to anyone, I think Hades is simply a must-buy for everyone. Of course, you can see the trailer, watch the reviews, and make the decision for yourself, but with the surprise launch of Hades as a shadow drop from this week's Nintendo Direct, and including an infinitely scalable endgame, Hades is not only Nindie Nation's pick of the week, but also the strongest recommendation in 2020 that we can provide. If that didn't sell you on it, the only other thing I can think of is to mention that Hades features procedurally generated worlds, roguelike mechanics, and RPG elements. But if that wasn't enough, when we look back on 2020, we're going to say, wow, at least 2 of the best 5 Nindies of the year released out of nowhere on the same day, because the immaculate Ori and the Will of the Wisps by Moon Studios also shadow dropped during the Nintendo Partner Showcase. Having just released on PC and Xbox earlier this year in March, Will of the Wisps is the sequel to Ori and the Blind Forest, which was just recommended in last week's Nindie Nation Deals section. Here's the pitch. The Ori games are among the most beautiful and well-crafted Metroidvania or exploration platformer games available, sitting alongside Hollow Knight and Axiom Verge as the best the genre has to offer. What the Ori games add is a gorgeous, dreamlike visual style and a bit more focus on exploration and platforming than combat. The sequel continues the story of the first and opens up the game to be a bit more open world, and in general establishes itself as the epitome of a sequel. There's more everything, and it's all for the better. There's a demo of the original Ori and the Blind Forest, and I would consider it a requirement to play the first before Will of the Wisps. But once you have, and you should, there is no denying that you'll be chomping at the bit to dive into the expanded sequel as soon as you can. With a launch this week for $29.99, the adventure is right there waiting for you. Phew! Okay, now, back to our regularly scheduled Neglected Nindies section. We've still got 11 more games that released since last week, so let's follow those two masterpieces up with Battle of Kings for $9.99 by Winkley Studio. This is a tower defense game based around saving your kingdom from your tyrannical cousin and has a surprisingly impressive art style. You get all the usual modes, including a fully featured single-player campaign and multiplayer that is both online and off. We've been getting a lot of quality tower defense games on the Switch recently, and Battle of Kings looks to be another one to add into that mix. As usual, Qbyte Interactive is on the Neglected Nindies list this week again, and they come packing not one, but two retro-inspired side-scrolling shooters with Space Elite Force 1 and 2 for $1.50 and $2.49 respectively. They're both fairly traditional entries in the genre, but both look competent and fun, with the original including two-player co-op, a story mode, and an endless arcade mode, and the sequel adding in achievements, online rankings, and a boss rush. I'll probably be picking up one of these this week for sure. The Long Dark is yet another high-profile indie that dropped out of nowhere this week and is a first-person survival game by Hinterland Studio for $31.49. The game has been on PC for a few years now and has received generally positive reviews, but the scores are still coming in for the Switch port at the time of this recording. After your plane crashes due to a geomagnetic storm, you are forced to survive the harsh environment of the Canadian wilderness by hunting, cooking, finding other survivors, creating shelter, and doing all sorts of stressful things in a game that has been praised as the pinnacle of the survival genre. If you've played this on the PC or you're planning to pick it up on the Switch, I'm interested to hear how the port panned out. Let me know in the YouTube comments or on Twitter at Nindie Nation. And the first title of the week to earn the coveted I Can't Tell What the This Game Is award is Bomber Fox by Forever Entertainment. It looks like some kind of neon-infused Bomberman, but there's definitely more going on here. Something about bombs falling from the sky. It looks like fun, and there's a bunch of different modes in both single player and multiplayer, so whatever system they've got built there, they're getting a lot of mileage out of it. It's $4.49, and if this looks super interesting to any of you, let me know and I might try it out or stream it this week. Next up is a game that appears to be an educational math game by a German developer named 2 Weistein. It's called The Curse of the Red Dragon, Part 1, Asban City, and states claims such as,
"All was peace and quiet in Asban and the whole land of Trillion, until that day on which the gates remained closed as if by ghostly hand, and other strange things happened."
It doesn't look too good, and at $18, there's plenty of free educational software already out there. Traveling Mosaics 5 Waltzing Vienna is now the 5th time publisher Jet Dogs has infringed on the intellectual property from Zootopia to make some kind of Picross game. I actually heard someone say recently they liked one of these games, but it's $8 and I'm not going to recommend it. The next Nindie that was neglected is published by Room 6, which isn't that a really bad horror movie from like 10 years ago or something? Someone look that up for me. World for Two is developed by 7th Rank and features really nice pixel art wrapped around a narrative where humanity is on the brink of extinction and a professor builds a robot to go harvest the items needed to repopulate the Earth. The gameplay seems really simple, but I like the premise and the art style. You can check out World for Two for yourself for $13.99 if you want to see an interactive, hopeful, post-apocalyptic story. Reflex Unit 2 is a tank combat game from an isometric perspective. It's developed by Robo Saru and it's $10. It's not too impressive, but it is pretty cool that this little indie game features not only cross-platform multiplayer, but also compatibility with Labo VR. If these guys can do it with Reflex Unit 2, I mean, nobody else has an excuse, right? Radaleka's unannounced title of the week is Tamaku, which is a $4 mishmash of Wrecking Crew, Bubble Bobble, and Balloon Fight? Basically, a bunch of elements from all of those NES single-screen games. And last, but probably least, an anime something or other simulator by Voltage, never heard of them, releases My Forged Wedding for $24.99. This is all we have to go off of, people.
Marry me. Only a month would do. The story. Due to a twist of fate, you're now pretending to be the wife of a man you've just met. At first, you're against the idea of this fake marriage, but as the days go on and you get to know one another, your mutual attraction deepens.
That's right, $24.99. So the winners are clear this week. Hades, Ori, and The Long Dark are all highly rated games and they just made their way to the Switch. I can't speak to The Long Dark, but the others should be safe to grab already. Moon Studios claims Ori hits a smooth 60 frames per second, so as long as the performance and technical aspects are solid, it's on track to be one of the best Nindies this year. While Hades is understandably a bit blurrier when playing on a TV compared to all of the time I spent with it on my mid-tier PC, I can confidently say that it runs like a dream and looks incredible in handheld mode, which is where I think you'll spend most of your time with it. Really, Hades on the go is just mwah. So let me know if you're buying Hades. If you're not, I want a 400-word essay on my desk by Thursday. That desk, by the way, is in the YouTube comments or on Twitter at Nindie Nation. And now it's time to check out the actual new releases this week. With 18 indies stepping up to bat for your hard-earned digital dollars, here's what's dropping on the eShop for the week ending September 25th. A trio of promising titles, all worth your time, kicks off the week of new releases on September 23rd, starting with Adam Nickerson's Orbit XL, which we covered and played on last week's Nindies at Night. Orbit XL is a super simple game for 99 cents from the creator of other simple arcade games I love, such as Ding Dong XL and Super Bit Blaster XL. In Orbit XL, you control the game with one button that pushes your orbiting planet away from a black hole while you avoid other objects in orbit. And by the way, yours truly currently has the world's number 4 score. Can you beat me? And full disclosure, this next game is really fun, but I might be a bit biased, because Twin Breaker, A Sacred Symbols Adventure is the product of Colin Moriarty and Chris Raygun, hosts of the Sacred Symbols PlayStation podcast. If you don't know Colin, he's been a longtime PlayStation enthusiast in the games media scene, and this game is basically Breakout on speed with a surprisingly deep and admittedly clever story woven throughout. I really enjoy this game, and I've completed it on the Vita and PS4. At only $9.99, there's a ton of value in this game by Lilymo Games and East Asia Soft, but I'm not entirely sure that you'll love it as much as I did if you aren't familiar with Colin and Chris. If you are, though, you should definitely pick it up. And how much does a free-to-play game cost when it hits the Switch for full price? That's a good question, and the team at Zen Studios thinks Castle Storm 2 is worth $17.99. Not sure that I agree with them, but this unique tower defense but more offense type game is made by one of the best mobile developers out there, and it looks gorgeous running in the Unreal 4 engine. It's got a funny story full of Monty Python type humor and is a really fun take that blends tower defense with Angry Birds and a hearty dose of RPG elements. If you just can't wait, my recommendation would be to check it out on your phone first, but otherwise I suggest throwing Castle Storm 2 on your wish list and picking it up when it's under $10. And on September 24th, getting this week's Big Thursday drop off to an interesting start, Moon Eye Studios delivers what could be a great 5-hour escape into a beautiful representation of the post-apocalypse, but they've priced The Lost Ember way too high. You play as a wolf and explore this lush world learning about the Yanrana culture and what happened to man, and some of the artwork here is just stunning. But at $26.99 and a stated playtime of 5 hours, this is going to be another one to throw on your wish list and wait for a sale. The team at Kingbird Games thinks, however, that their free-to-play mobile game My Diggy Dog 2 is worth $9.99 when it launches on the Switch this week as well. Not sure how these teams come to these conclusions, but either way, this is a cutesy platform adventure that takes cues from the SteamWorld Dig games where you explore underground mines and search for treasure, and in this case, as a dog, your master's lost wife. As it's a free-to-play mobile game, you can try it out on your phone first, but my gut says to stick with the SteamWorld games for that price. Micro Pico Racers is the first Switch title released by Forsaken Games and launches on the 24th for $3.99. It's a top-down racer said to mimic the best of the 16-bit era, but the visual style looks very odd and the mechanics don't look like much fun. I'm gonna say pass on this one. But good lord, y'all. D3 Publisher hits a new low this week. I can't believe this. They don't even try to have a cutesy story with this one. Stalking Lover Secrets of Me is well, it's a terrible idea. A romance game in which the protagonist gets plastic surgery and chases after handsome men in the name of love.
Wanting to catch the attention of the object of your affection, Ichiro Yamada, you undergo plastic surgery. You also happen to have been taught the ins and outs of being a private eye.
If you're looking for an original way for the story to kick off in your episode of Unsolved Mysteries, this thing is $15 and includes a demo, but just don't mention you heard about it here. Please? Up until the exciting shadow drops this week, the game I was looking forward to most drops on September 24th and was originally shown off over a year ago during an Indie World presentation. Let's get this out of the way first. Going Under, Internships or Heck is an isometric dungeon crawler with procedurally generated levels, roguelike mechanics, and RPG elements. But what makes this one particularly exciting is the presentation. You play as an intern who's just been fired from a trendy startup, but in this world, tech startups that fail are sent to the underworld, and so are you. With some light simulation mechanics, you can invest in various startups as you fling office chairs at tech bros from failed rideshare companies, and take on quests from poor innocent souls who were lured into the world of tech unicorns. It's up to you to free Neo Cascadia from the energy maker Fizzle, and besides this week's shadow drops, Going Under is this week's pick of the week when it launches for $19.99. Great Conqueror Rome looks a whole lot like a cross between Risk and Civilization as a strategy game by Circle Entertainment, the developers of the excellent Mercenaries Saga series. This one is yet another mobile port that doesn't seem to have too much effort put into it though. So if you're jonesing for a strategy fix this week, even at $10, I'd still probably turn to Mercenaries Saga first. And probably the newest publisher to really get a spotlight on bringing new, engaging, and high-quality titles to the eShop is the Quantum Astrophysicists Guild, and they've got their take on the top-down twin-stick arcade game this week with Breakpoint for $4.99. Developed by Studio Aesthesia, the neon visuals are clearly inspired by Geometry Wars, but where Breakpoint does things differently is in the weapons department, which are all melee-focused. They carry a variety of attacks, they can be upgraded, and they will ultimately break. Depending on your preference and your budget this week, both Orbit XL and Breakpoint offer great options for some pick-up-and-play score chasing. Rivals of Aether is a long-running Smash Brothers-like fighting game that's been available on most platforms for nearly 4 years and is getting a definitive edition on the Switch this week for $29.99. This game has a really active competitive scene, and the game, by Dan Fornace, features a wide cast of interesting characters, as well as a few from beloved indie games such as Shovel Knight and Ori. Maybe we didn't need Bounty Battle after all. This game has been widely acclaimed for years, and now features a bevy of content in its definitive edition, with all characters and stages unlocked from the get-go. It's a bit pricey at $30, but there's enough to go on out there to feel confident in recommending Rivals of Aether if you're looking for a decidedly more indie Smash Brothers. Filed under could really use a bit more information about this one. Alluris is a choose-your-own adventure game that appears to be entirely menu-driven by 562 Interactive and launches on the 24th for $9.99. While it appears to be very limited in scope from a gameplay perspective, most of the positive reviews I found were from tabletop games and LARPing sites, and they all really seem to like it. So I'm guessing the stories must be worth experiencing, and now you can do so on the Switch. The team at Orange is no stranger to narrative adventure games, and this week they release Gothic Murder Adventure That Changes Destiny, which tells the story of an anime maid who witnesses a murder in her early 20th century English mansion. With 5 scenarios to solve and an overall nice presentation, it's up to you to catch the killer before they catch you, and you can attempt to solve these cases for $11.99. Next up is Big Bobby Carr The Big Race by Wild River Games, and it's an adventure racing game that appears to be built on some kind of franchise or license based around these little kid cars that you sit and scoot around on. It kind of reminds me of Beetle Adventure Racing. I can't imagine this game is for anyone besides fans of whatever this franchise is. And at $30, you're probably not going to be taking a chance until you're a proper, hardcore Big Bobby Carr fan. You know you're out there. You know those tabletop strategy games where you get those super detailed characters and people hand paint them? That has turned into a video game by Deck 13 and Playwood Project called War Tile Complete Edition. It released for other consoles back in 2017 and garnered average to good reviews. While the graphics definitely represent the real-life equivalent well, this is probably another title that's only going to be fit for a very niche audience. Mattis Folkstad might not be a name that you know, but his puzzle adventure game Milkmaid of the Milky Way was highly praised when it released a couple years ago, and his next title, Embracelet, hits the eShop on the 24th for $11.99, published by Machine Boy. With a colorful, stylized representation of northern Norway, you play as a boy given a magical bracelet by his grandfather and must use its powers to solve puzzles, make story-changing decisions, and guide your friends on a quest to understand exactly what that bracelet is. Roller Coaster Tycoon is one that I thought was definitely an EA-published game and we wouldn't cover it, but apparently it is developed and published by Frontier. If you haven't played these games before, you're missing out because they are a super fun take on the management sim. I've only ever played these games on PC, but they've always been a lot of fun, especially if you like the idea of owning and managing an amusement park. Tycoon 3 is another $30 indie this week, and it does include a demo. But if you happen to want something similar in a different environment, feel free to check out 2 Point Hospital as well for a taste of what's to come in Roller Coaster Tycoon. And last, and certainly least, well, maybe not as bad as the literal stalking simulator, but pretty close. They're back, friends. Boombit is back and they've reskinned their driving game once more as Car Driving Simulator. Guess what? Mobile touch controls on the screen, drive from point A to point B, there's a free roam mode. Do not spend $10.49 on this. And speaking of spending money, we've got the deals coming up next, but I want to know what you're picking up this week first. You getting Hades? If so, share some clips of your favorite loadouts and I'll retweet them over at Nindie Nation. And let's get a nice big Hades love fest going on in the YouTube comments. What's your favorite weapon? Who's your favorite god? I want to know. The deals this week are a little slim, and a lot of times that means we're getting some kind of drop or direct soon. I'm not sure if that's the case this time because Nintendo has been very busy recently with all of their videos, but we'll see. While all of this week's deals are Nindie Nation approved, if you've got the funds, picking up Hades while it's 20% off for $19.99 is far and away the deal pick of the week. Between that, Ori, and Going Under, it's hard to recommend anything else above them. But don't fret, citizens, because even though the pickings are slim, we still have 10 great deals for you that are all at their lowest price ever. So here's our picks for the best deals valid through at least September 26th. Super Bit Blaster and Ding Dong XL, featured in the recent Nindies we love, are 9 cents each, and you should buy them both because you will definitely get your money's worth out of them, and they can be fun for anyone, even if it's someone who's never held a controller before. Jenny LeClue is an absolutely adorable adventure game that recently hit the Switch and is probably ideal for a young girl who is a proficient reader, but it's a great fit for everyone too. It's only 20% off, but this is its first sale, and it's an excellent adventure game at $19.99. Golazo is the soccer game for you if you like arcadey, kinda wacky soccer games. You know, like the kind of sports games we got back in the early 2000s? At 70% off, it's a steal for $4.49. And Help Will Come Tomorrow is a really cool blend of historical timepiece meets survival sim meets choose your own adventure. One of the very few games of this type that I've played because of how highly it was recommended to me. Help will come tomorrow, but the 75% discount is here right now to make this game only $4.99. Hyper Parasite is a twin-stick shooter with procedurally generated levels, roguelike mechanics, and RPG elements. It's a fairly new entry in the genre where your primary weapon is consuming the bodies of others to use their unique skills, and you can get your Parasite on for half off at $8.99. Akane is a very simple single-run see how far you can get hack and slash that is really hard. Like, really hard. It's really fun though, and it also has procedurally generated levels, roguelike mechanics, and RPG elements. Akane is a great game to load up and try a run or two while you're deciding on what you're gonna play next, and when it's 80% off for only $1, it's not gonna break the bank either. Double Cross is a stylish action-adventure that falls somewhere between a Mega Man and a Metroid game, and it's developed by 13AM, who also created Rumbo. It gets a little repetitive and long in the tooth towards the end with some of the puzzles, but otherwise, it's a great game that is totally worth $4.99. But if you're looking for a more traditional Metroidvania game, Mable and The Wood is a solid pick that features a pixelated art style that is much more 16-bit than the flashy, modern look of Double Cross. Mable and The Wood features a heartwarming story and is also 75% off this week for $3.74. Of this week's deals, besides the two games that are only 9 cents, I would say Mable and The Wood is probably this week's pick of the week. And finally, citizens, Trine. All the Trine, the complete collection. Trine 1, Trine 2, Trine 3, and the new Trine 4. Side-scrolling adventure games with combat and puzzles. Trine.
Don't say trine.
I said Trine. The whole dang Trine is $14.90 Trine.
Damn it!
If you didn't notice, there are 3 titles in there from genres that I usually don't dabble too much in. Golazo, Jenny LeClue, and Help Will Come Tomorrow are all titles that aren't usually my cup of tea, but they're good enough to get me out of my comfort zone. So let me know if you're checking any of those out or any of the other deals in the YouTube comments or on Twitter at Nindie Nation. If you're looking for more Nindie goodness, don't forget our ever-growing library of content on YouTube, including past episodes, Let's Plays, and the back catalog of Nindies at Night streams. I'm not sure what we're going to stream this week, so let me know if you have any requests, and I'll see all of you back here on Thursday at 10 p.m. Eastern. Outside of our world of Nindies, there's a ton of Nintendo stuff to talk about, and our friends at the Nintendo Village have got you covered. They're dropping daily articles, features, weekly podcasts, and a couple of great YouTube shows that are definitely worth checking out. We appreciate their support in hosting Nindie Nation and hope you'll check them out at thenintendovillage.com. Other than that, we're all done for the week, so thanks as always for stopping by, and another huge thank you to Darren Korb from Supergiant for the super awesome intro as Skelly. I look forward to chatting with all of you again next week, seeing you during the stream, and chatting everywhere else in the meantime. Apparently the bacon game from last week was delayed last minute, so we'll have to check that out next week. And there's another title coming out that looks to double down on the spooky platforming we got from Limbo, so we'll have to see if it can deliver. But all of that is for next week, citizens. So until then, I'm Jeff. This has been Nindie Nation episode 83. And while we're always here to help you find the best Nindie for you, I don't know how many more times I can tell you, but I think regardless of what you're into, you need to give Hades a shot. Because just like Skelly said, it'll be just the thing to keep your Joy-Cons synced.